Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going deep on XDR. You know, extended detection and response. It's a term you've probably seen popping up more and more, especially with all the cybersecurity stuff in the news lately, and we're going to break it all down. Like, what is XDR really? How does it actually work? And why is everyone suddenly talking about it? To get to the bottom of all this, we've got a pretty interesting mix of sources lined up, some articles, a couple of tech briefs, even a YouTube video with the cybersecurity expert. He does a really good job of explaining all this, like, really clearly. So, first things first. What is this XDR thing?
Well, it's certainly more than just like a buzzword. XDR, it's like a whole different way of thinking about cybersecurity. Instead of waiting around for threats to happen and then reacting, XDR, it tries to be more proactive. It's like, how a security system will lock your doors, but a really good one will like analyze what's going on in your neighborhood and call the police even before someone tries to break in.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about like building higher walls, right? It's about like anticipating stuff and preventing those attacks in the first place.
That's it. And a big part of that is how XDR gets its information. It's not just looking at your computer or your phone or whatever. It pulls in data from your whole network, your servers, cloud stuff, even email. I mean, everything. So by getting this like complete picture XDR, it can see those really sneaky threats, the ones that kind of hide between the cracks of your normal defenses.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It's like, I don't know, XDR is almost like a detective, right? Just constantly gathering clues and piecing things together before you even realize something's wrong.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And because it's got all this AI and automation working for it, it can analyze like mountains of data in real time,
Yeah.
way faster than any human team ever could.
You mentioned it pulls data from all these different places. So how is that different from SIM? I know that also collects data, right?
Well, yeah, so SIME stands for Security Information and Event Management. Basically, it's a system that pulls in logs and alerts from all your security tools, and it's supposed to help you spot patterns and potential threats. But the big difference is that SIME is more like a place to store all this security information, while XDR actually goes a step further and automatically analyzes all that data to like detect stuff and respond to threats. With SIME, you often need someone like an analyst to actually look at the data and figure out what's going on. But XDR is designed to be more proactive, and to do more of the work on its own.
So XDR is like having a SIM that's like actually thinking about the information it's gathering and
Yeah.
then like taking action on it.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And SIME isn't the only thing XDR is different from. You've probably heard of EDR, MDR, NDR, maybe even ITDR. It's like a whole alphabet soup of acronyms.
Oh yeah, definitely. Can you break all those down for us? Like how do all those things fit in?
Sure. So let's start with EDR, endpoint detection and response. That one is all about protecting like individual devices,
Hmm.
like laptops and smartphones, good for stopping malware, preventing unauthorized access, things like that.
So it's like each device has its own little security guard.
You got it. And then you have NDR, network detection and response. That one, it monitors all the traffic on your network, looking for anything suspicious.
So NDR is keeping an eye on all the like highways of your network, making sure no bad guys are like sneaking through.
Exactly. Then there's MDR, managed detection and response. Basically, you're paying experts to do your security monitoring, and they handle any incidents that pop up too. It's like having a 247 security team watching over everything.
Oh, that sounds like a pretty good option for like companies that maybe don't have the resources to build up their own security team. Where does ITDR fit into all this?
Right. So ITDR is Identity Threat Detection and Response. It's focused on protecting user accounts and login credentials. It helps organizations spot and respond to threats that involve like compromised identities, which are unfortunately becoming more and more common these days.
Oh, so it's like a security system
Yeah.
specifically for like preventing identity theft.
Exactly. Now, all of these solutions, they have their own strengths,
Mm.
but XDR kind of wants to bring them all together. It acts like a central nervous system,
Mm.
pulling data from all those different sources and then using AI to analyze it and look for any signs of a threat.
It's like it's not just having all these different tools, it's about having something that can like orchestrate them all and make sense of all the information they're gathering.
That's it. That's why you hear people calling XDR the future of cybersecurity. It's not just a piece of technology. It's like a new philosophy, a new way to think about security, one that's much more proactive, integrated, and intelligent.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So how does XDR actually work in practice then? Like, can you walk us through the steps of of how it would detect and respond to, like, a real threat.
Think of it like a dance, a three-step dance. Analyze, detect, respond.
Okay, so analyze. What's happening during the analyze part?
During analyze, XDR is pulling in information from all those sources we talked about. Endpoints, the network, cloud services, email security, all of it. It's like XDR is always gathering information, from every part of your digital world.
It's like it's got eyes and ears everywhere, but it's not just about like collecting all that data, right?
Yeah.
What does it do with it?
That's where detect comes in. This is where it gets really interesting. XDR uses AI and machine learning to go through all that data and like look for patterns, anything unusual that could be a sign of a threat. It's like having a super sleuth who can connect the dots and find those clues that humans would miss.
Oh, so it's not just looking for like known threats. It's trying to figure out like new threats.
Exactly. XDR, it's constantly learning, just like the attackers. It's not about catching up, it's about staying ahead.
That's pretty impressive. But what happens once XDR finds a threat? Does it just like ring an alarm and let humans figure out what to do?
Got it all? That's respond.
Yeah.
XDR isn't just about finding threats, it's about dealing with them.
Oh, so it's not just a detective, it's like a first responder too.
Exactly. And it can respond in like a bunch of different ways. Depends on what the threat is. It might block bad traffic, isolate an infected device, even roll back a system to a previous state.
So XDR isn't just finding threats, it's also automating how we respond to them.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that really sets XDR apart. It helps organizations move away from, that old way of doing security, the manual reactive way.
Yeah.
And it helps them become more automated and proactive.
I see, I see. So that's why there's all this buzz about XDR. It really does seem like it's like pushing the boundaries
Yeah.
of what's possible with cybersecurity. But let's get a little more practical for a second. Our listener might be wondering, how does all this apply to like their own digital life? Could you walk us through like a real world scenario? Like what would happen if someone got hit with a phishing attack?
Sure. Let's say you get an email that looks like it's from your bank. It's got the logo and everything. And there's a link in the email asking you to update your account info. You click on it, you don't suspect anything.
And that's where things could go south, right?
Right. But with XDR, here's how things might be different. First, XDR, it might notice that the email came from like a suspicious IP address, one that's been used in other phishing campaigns.
So before you even click on anything, XDR is already like suspicious.
Exactly. And then, say you do click the link, XDR might realize that the website you're on isn't actually your bank's site, even if it looks exactly the same.
It's like XDR is checking the website's ID, making sure it's really who it says it is.
That's a great way to put it. Now, say the website wants you to type in your login info.xbr. It might recognize that that data is sensitive and flag it as a possible data theft. It might even block you from sending that data so your credentials don't get stolen.
Wow, it's like a bodyguard for your information. But what if the phishing attack is like more advanced? What if it gets past all those first defenses?
That's where XDR's ability to correlate data from different places, that's where that gets really important. Say the phishing attack involves malware, right? That's designed to steal your passwords. Even if that malware gets past your antivirus, XDR might notice other weird stuff happening on your computer, like you're suddenly downloading files you didn't ask for, or something's trying to access sensitive files.
So even if one piece of the puzzle slips through, XDR can still see the big picture and put it all together.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. XDR might also see that other people in your organization got the same phishing email, or that the same malware is on their computers too.
It's like XDR is crowdsourcing intelligence, like using information from everyone to build a stronger defense.
Precisely. And all of this is happening super fast, in real time, without you even noticing it. That's the power of XDR. It's always working to keep you safe.
Wow. It sounds like XDR is really setting a new standard for cybersecurity. But with all this AI and automation, are there any like downsides or risks? Like what about false positives? Could XDR mistake something harmless for a threat?
That's a really good question. Like any security tool, XDR isn't perfect. False positives are definitely possible. So it's important to have good rules and thresholds and try and minimize those. The key is making sure XDR is set up correctly and that the security teams, they understand how to interpret the alerts it gives.
So even with all this fancy technology, you still need people with expertise.
Absolutely. Technology can do a lot, but it's still humans who have to make decisions about how to handle threats. XDR is a powerful tool for sure, but you need skilled people to use it the right way.
That makes sense. It's about finding that balance, right, between automation and human oversight. We've talked a lot about the benefits of XDR, but I'm curious about the challenges too. Like, what are some of the hurdles that organizations might run into when they try to implement XDR?
One of the biggest ones is how complex it is to integrate everything. XDR needs data from all these different places, and getting all those systems to talk to each other smoothly, that can be a real challenge.
So it's not just about like plugging in a new device. It's like you're trying to weave together a whole bunch of different technologies.
That's a good way to put it. And it also takes a deep understanding of your current security setup,
Yeah.
and you need to be able to customize and configure XDR to fit your specific needs.
It sounds like a pretty big undertaking. Are there any other challenges?
Another potential one is just like data overload. Yeah. XDR can generate so much data, and you really need the right tools and processes
Yeah.
to manage and analyze all that information effectively.
So it's not just about collecting data. It's about making sense of it. It sounds like you need like the right
Right.
people, the right processes, and the right technology all working together.
You got it. XDR isn't a quick fix. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. You need to have a holistic view of security,
Hmm.
and be ready to embrace change.
We've talked about the technical side of XDR and some of the practical aspects, but I'm also curious about like the bigger picture. Like, how do you see XDR changing the future of cybersecurity?
Well, I think XDR is a fundamental shift in how we think about security. We're moving away from that reactive siloed approach, and we're moving towards a model that's more proactive and integrated.
So it's not just about building higher walls, right? It's about like changing the whole security landscape.
Exactly. And I think we're just at the beginning of that change. As XDR gets better and more mature, we're going to see even more cool stuff like predictive analytics, automated threat hunting, self-healing networks.
Wow, those sound pretty amazing. It sounds like XDR is really pushing the limits of what's possible. But with all this power, comes responsibility, right?
Absolutely. As XDR gets smarter and collects more data, we have to think about the ethical side of things. Making sure the data is used responsibly, protecting people's privacy, and making sure that biases aren't built into the system.
That's a really important point. It's not just about building powerful technology. It's about using it in a way that's responsible and ethical. I think we've given our listener a lot to think about today, from the basics of XDR to its potential impact on the future. But before we wrap up, I want to leave them with one last thought. We've talked about how XDR is changing things for organizations, but what about for like individuals? How can XDR help individuals take control of their own cybersecurity?
That's a great question. While XDR is usually used by organizations, the ideas behind it can definitely be used by individuals too.
So it's not just for big companies. There are things we can all learn from XDR to like improve our own personal cybersecurity.
Absolutely. One of the biggest lessons from XDR is the importance of being proactive. Instead of just waiting for something bad to happen, individuals can take steps to strengthen their own defenses. Use strong passwords for all their accounts. Turn on multi-factor authentication whenever they can. Be careful about clicking links or opening attachments from people they don't know, and keep their software and operating systems updated.
So it's about being more mindful and proactive about our own security.
Exactly. Another lesson from XDR is that it's important to stay informed. Individuals can stay up to date on the latest threats by reading cybersecurity blogs and articles, following security experts on social media, or subscribing to security newsletters.
So it's about like staying ahead of the curve and knowing about the risks so we can make better decisions online.
Exactly. And lastly, I think XDR shows us how important it is to think about security holistically. It's not just about protecting your devices. It's about protecting your identity, your data, and your privacy. It's about being aware of how connected our digital lives are and taking steps to secure every part of our online presence.
That's a great point. XDR isn't just about technology. It's about mindset. It's about taking ownership of our own cybersecurity.
I completely agree. It's about making security a priority in our digital lives.
We've talked about a lot in this deep dive, but there's always more to explore. What are some of the emerging trends or challenges you see coming up for XDR?
That's a great question. As XDR keeps evolving, we're going to see some really cool developments and probably some new challenges too. One thing we're seeing already is the rise of XDR as a service, which makes this technology more accessible to organizations that maybe don't have the resources to build their own XDR in-house.
That makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like cloud computing, right? Where powerful technology becomes available to everyone.
Exactly. And as more organizations adopt XDR, We're also going to see more integration with other new technologies,
Hmm.
like cloud security platforms, identity and access management solutions, even threat intelligence feeds.
So it's about creating a more cohesive security system
Mhm.
where all these different technologies can work together smoothly.
Exactly. And of course, as XDR gets more sophisticated and relies on more data, we need to pay even more attention to the ethical side of things. Making sure that data privacy is protected, making sure algorithms are fair and unbiased, and making sure XDR is used responsibly.
That's a great point. It's not just about building powerful technology. It's about using it in a way that's ethical and responsible. Are there any concerns about like bias in XDR algorithms? Could XDR like accidentally perpetuate existing biases or lead to like unfair security outcomes?
That's a really important question. And it's something the cybersecurity community is really thinking about. Like any technology that uses AI, there's always a chance of bias creeping in, either through the data that's used to train the algorithms or through the way the algorithms are designed. We have to be aware of these potential biases and take steps to mitigate them.
So it's not just about the technology itself. It's also about the people who are building it and using it. We need to make sure we're building and using XDR in a way that's fair and equitable for everyone.
I completely agree. We need to make sure that XDR is used to improve security for everyone and not to create new problems or make existing inequalities worse.
One of the things that's been really interesting in our research is how XDR is kind of blurring the lines between those traditional security silos. It's not just about like network security or endpoint security or data security. It's about all of those things working together.
You're absolutely right. XDR is breaking down those old barriers and forcing us to think about security in a more holistic way.
And that's exciting. It feels like XDR isn't just a new technology. It's a new way of thinking about security altogether.
I totally agree. It's a real paradigm shift that's challenging us to rethink what's possible in cybersecurity.
As we look ahead to the future of XDR, what are some of the key questions or challenges that you think we need to address?
One of the biggest challenges will be just keeping up with the changing threat landscape. Attackers are always getting more sophisticated and finding new ways to exploit vulnerabilities. So XDR solutions, they have to adapt and evolve too to stay ahead of the game.
Feels like an arms race where the good guys and the bad guys are always trying to outsmart each other.
Exactly. Another big challenge is going to be the skills gap. The cybersecurity industry is really short on skilled professionals. As XDR gets more widely used, we're going to need more people who can understand and manage these solutions.
So it's not just about building better technology, it's about building a stronger cybersecurity workforce.
Absolutely. And as XDR gets adopted more widely, we also need to think about the legal and regulatory implications. Making sure that XDR is used in a way that complies with data privacy laws, that's going to be really important.
That's a great point. It's not just about the technology, it's about the ethical and legal framework around it. It seems like XDR isn't just a technology, it's like a reflection of how our relationship with technology is changing. We're always trying to find that balance, between innovation and security, between convenience and control.
You've summed it up perfectly. XDR is a sign of how we're trying to
Yeah.
use the power of technology while also managing the risks. It's about finding that balance between progress and protection. And I think that's a journey that's going to keep us busy for a long time.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, but I think there's one more question our listener might have. How do you choose the right XDR solution? There are a lot of options out there.
That's a great point. Picking the right XDR solution really depends on your needs and your current security setup. Here are a few things to keep in mind. First, integration capabilities. How well does the XDR solution work with your existing security tools? Does it come with pre-built integrations, or can you create custom integrations?
That's really important, especially if you don't want to be stuck with like one vendor.
Right. Another thing to consider is analytics and automation. What kind of analytics and automation features does it have? Can it automatically correlate events, prioritize threats, and trigger responses?
So basically, how much of the work can it do on its own?
Exactly. Then you need to think about deployment options. Is it cloud-based, on-premises, or a hybrid model? Which one fits best with your infrastructure and resources?
So it's about finding the right balance
Good.
between functionality, flexibility, and an ease of deployment.
Right. And then you got cost and scalability. How much does it cost, and can it grow with your organization?
That's important. You don't want to get stuck with something that can't handle your future needs.
And finally, don't forget about vendor reputation and support. Does the vendor have a good track record? Are they known for being innovative? Do their customers like them? What kind of support and training do they offer?
It's like picking any other important business partner. You want to make sure you're working with someone you can trust. It sounds like picking an XDR solution is kind of like buying a car. You have to think about your budget, your needs, and what you want to use it for.
That's a good analogy. And just like buying a car, it's always good to do your research. Try out a few different options and get some expert advice before you make a decision.
Okay, so we've talked about how to choose an XDR solution, but let's get practical again. What are some of the steps an organization should take to get ready for an XDR implementation? Because it doesn't sound like something you just install and forget about.
You're right. A good XDR implementation takes planning and preparation. Here are a few key steps. First, you need to define your security goals. What do you want to achieve with XDR? Are you focused on improving threat detection, speeding up incident response, or just generally improving your security posture?
It's like setting your destination before you start a trip. You have to know where you're going before you can plan the route.
Exactly. Next, you need to assess your current security setup. Take a good look at your existing security tools, data sources, and processes. This will help you find any gaps or things you're doing twice that XDR can help with.
It's like checking what you have in your pantry before going grocery shopping.
And just as important, you need to establish clear ownership and responsibilities. Implementing XDR involves different teams. Your security team, IT operations, maybe even other departments. You need to define everyone's roles and responsibilities to make sure the rollout goes smoothly.
So it's not just a technology project, it's an organizational change project.
You got it. Speaking of change, you also need a communication and training plan. XDR will probably introduce new workflows and processes for your security team. You need to communicate the benefits of XDR, address any concerns, and provide proper training to make sure everyone's on board and knows what to do.
It's about making sure everyone's ready for the change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from a technical perspective, you need to plan your data integration strategy. XDR uses data from lots of sources, so you need to map out how you'll integrate those data feeds and make sure the data is good quality and consistent.
So it's about making sure that information can flow smoothly.
Right. And finally, and this might be the most important part, start small and iterate. Don't try to do everything at once. Start with a specific use case, prove that it works, and then gradually expand as you gain experience and confidence.
That's great advice. It's about being strategic and taking things one step at a time.
Speaking of being strategic, one thing that came up in our research is this idea that XDR isn't just a technology, it's a philosophy, like a philosophy of cybersecurity. Can you explain that a little more? What does it mean to have an XDR mindset?
Well, the interesting thing about XDR, it's not just about using a new tool, it's about changing the way you think about security.
So it's like a paradigm shift,
Yeah.
not just a product upgrade.
Exactly. An XDR mindset means a few things. Being proactive. Instead of waiting for attacks, you're actively looking for threats and vulnerabilities. Collaboration. XDR breaks down the walls between different security teams and encourages a more collaborative and integrated approach. Data-driven decision-making. You're using real-time data and insights to make decisions, instead of relying on, gut feelings or old assumptions.
So it's about moving away from that old, reactive, siloed approach
Yeah.
and embracing a security culture that's more proactive, collaborative, and data-driven.
That's it. And I think that change in mindset is just as important as the technology. That's a great point. It's like the saying, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. XDR is about helping organizations become more self-sufficient.
Exactly. It's about giving organizations the tools, knowledge, and mindset to be in control of their own security.
I love that. So if we had to sum up the key takeaways from this deep dive, what would they be?
Here are a few of the most important things to remember. XDR is a powerful, proactive, and evolving approach to cybersecurity. It's designed to handle the increasingly complex and sophisticated threats we face today. XDR goes beyond traditional security solutions by integrating data, automating responses, and providing a unified view of the threat landscape. Choosing the right XDR solution requires careful planning, and it's important to consider your organization's specific needs and security goals.
Okay, that makes sense. So what about emerging trends or challenges on the horizon for XDR, I guess?
Well, one trend we're already seeing is this rise of XDR as a service, and it's making XDR, more accessible
Yeah.
to organizations that maybe can't build their own XDR solution in-house.
That makes sense. It's kind of like cloud computing, right?
Yeah.
Making those powerful technologies available to everyone.
Exactly. And as XDR gets adopted more widely, we're going to see more integration, with those emerging technologies,
Yeah.
like cloud security platforms, identity and access management solutions, even threat intelligence
So
feeds.
it's about creating a more like cohesive security system.
Yeah.
Like everything's working together seamlessly.
Exactly. And as XDR gets, more sophisticated
Hmm.
and more data-driven, we have to be really careful about the ethical considerations, making sure that data privacy is protected,
Yeah.
making sure those algorithms are fair and unbiased,
Yeah.
and just in general, making sure XDR is used responsibly.
That's a great point. It's not just about the tech itself. It's about using it ethically and responsibly. Speaking of ethics, are there concerns about bias in those XDR algorithms? Could they, I don't know, could they accidentally perpetuate existing biases? Or maybe even like lead to unfair security outcomes?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
And it's something the whole cybersecurity community is wrestling with.
Mm.
Like with any AI-powered technology, there's always a risk of bias sneaking in, whether it's through the data that's used to train the algorithms or even just the way those algorithms are designed. It's really important to be aware of these potential biases
Yeah.
and take steps to mitigate them.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the people who are developing it and using it, making sure we're building and using it in a way that's fair and equitable for everyone.
Exactly.
One thing that's been really fascinating for us in our research is how XDR is blurring those lines. Between those traditional security silos, it's not just network security or endpoint security or data security, it's everything, all working together.
You're absolutely right. XDR is breaking down those barriers,
Yeah.
making us think about security in a more holistic, interconnected way.
And that's exciting. It feels like XDR is not just a new technology, but a new way of thinking about security.
I completely agree. It's a paradigm shift
Yeah.
that's challenging us to really rethink what's possible.
As we look ahead to the future of XDR, what are some of the key questions or challenges that we still need to address?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is keeping up with that constantly evolving threat landscape. Attackers are getting more sophisticated all the time. They're finding new ways to exploit those vulnerabilities. So XDR, it has to adapt and evolve to stay ahead.
So it's like an arms race between the good guys and the bad guys, constantly trying to outsmart each other.
Exactly. Another challenge is going to be addressing that skills gap. The cybersecurity industry, it's really lacking those skilled professionals. As XDR gets more widely adopted, we need qualified people who can manage and operate these systems.
So it's not just about better tech, it's about a better cybersecurity workforce.
You got it. And as XDR gets adopted more broadly, we have to think about the legal and regulatory implications too. Making sure XDR is being used in a way
Yeah.
that's compliant with those data privacy laws and regulations.
That's a great point. It's not just about the tech, but the ethical and legal framework.
Right.
It seems like XDR isn't just a tech, but a reflection of our evolving relationship with tech itself. We're always trying to find that balance between innovation and security, between convenience and control.
You put it perfectly. XDR is a testament to that quest to use the power of tech while also managing the risks.
Yeah.
It's that balance between progress and protection. And that's a journey that's going to keep us all busy for a long time.
I think there's one more important question our listeners might have. How do you choose the right XDR solution? There are a lot of options out there.
That's a great point. Choosing the right solution takes careful consideration. Thinking about your organization's specific needs and your security posture. Here are some key factors. First, integration capabilities. How well does the solution integrate with your existing security tools? Does it offer a broad range of integrations or the ability to create custom integrations?
That's key, especially if you don't want to be stuck with one vendor.
Right. Another factor is analytics and automation. What kind of analytics and automation does the solution offer? Can it correlate events, prioritize threats, trigger responses automatically?
So basically, how much heavy lifting can the tech do on its own?
Exactly. And of course, you need to consider deployment options, cloud-based, on-premises, or a hybrid model. What fits your organization's infrastructure and resources?
Finding that balance between functionality, flexibility, and ease of deployment.
Right. And then there are cost and scalability. How much does the solution cost? How well can it scale to meet future needs?
It's important because you don't want to end up with a solution that can't grow with your business.
Exactly. And finally, don't underestimate vendor reputation and support. Does the vendor have a proven track record? Are they innovative? What kind of support and training do they offer?
It's like choosing any other critical business partner. You want to trust them.
Exactly.
It sounds like choosing an XDR solution is kind of like buying a car. You have to think about budget, needs, and lifestyle to find the right fit.
That's a great analogy. And just like buying a car, it's always a good idea to do your research, test drive a few options, and get some expert advice before making that final decision.
Okay, we've talked about choosing an XDR solution, but let's get practical. What are some steps an organization can take to prepare for implementation? Because it sounds like it's not something you just install and forget about.
You're absolutely right. Successful implementation takes careful planning and preparation. Here are a few key steps. Define your security goals. What do you want to achieve with XDR? Improving threat detection, accelerating incident response, enhancing overall security posture.
It's like setting a destination before a journey.
Exactly. You need to assess your current security infrastructure. Take a comprehensive inventory of your security tools, your data sources, and your processes. Identify any gaps or redundancies that XDR can address.
It's like taking stock of your pantry before going grocery shopping.
Right. Establish clear ownership and responsibilities.
Hmm.
XDR implementation is a cross-functional effort. It involves security teams, IT operations, potentially other departments. Define roles and responsibilities for a smooth rollout.
So it's not just a technology project, it's an organizational change initiative.
You got it. Develop a communication and training plan. XDR, it often introduces new workflows and processes for your security team. Communicate those benefits of XDR, address any concerns, provide adequate training, ensure buy-in and effective adoption.
Make sure everyone's on board and prepared for the journey ahead.
Absolutely. Plan your data integration strategy. XDR relies on data from multiple sources. Carefully map out how you'll integrate those data feeds. Ensure data quality and consistency.
It's about laying the groundwork for that smooth flow of information that XDR needs.
Right, and finally, start small and iterate. Don't try to do everything at once. Start with a focused use case, prove the value, and gradually expand as you gain experience and confidence.
That's great advice. It's about taking a measured approach rather than trying to do everything at once. Speaking of taking a strategic approach, our research highlighted this idea that XDR, it's not just a technology, it's a philosophy of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? What does it mean to have that XDR mindset?
XDR is not just implementing a new tool, it's adopting a new way of thinking about security.
A paradigm shift, not just a product upgrade.
Exactly. An XDR mindset is characterized by proactivity. Instead of waiting for attacks, be proactive. Hunt for threats and vulnerabilities. Collaboration. Break down those silos between security teams. Foster a more collaborative and integrated approach to threat detection and response. Data-driven decision-making. Empower those security professionals to make informed decisions based on real-time data and insights rather than gut feelings.
Moving beyond that reactive, siloed approach of the past, embracing a more proactive, collaborative, and data-driven security culture.
That's the essence of it. And that shift in mindset
Yes.
is just as important as the technology itself.
That's a great point. Like the saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. XDR is about empowering organizations to become self-sufficient and resilient in the face of, constantly evolving cyber threats.
Exactly. It's about equipping organizations with the tools, the knowledge, and the mindset to become masters of their own security destinies.
I love that. If we were to sum up the key takeaways from this deep dive into XDR, what would they be?
Well, here are some of the most important things to remember. XDR, it's a powerful, proactive, and evolving approach to cybersecurity, designed to address those complex and sophisticated threats. It goes beyond traditional security solutions, integrating data, automating responses, providing that unified view of the threat landscape, choosing the right XDR solution. It takes planning and considering your organization's unique needs and security goals, and successful XDR implementation. It's more than just installing a new tool. It involves organizational change, clear communication, ongoing training and support. Embracing an XDR mindset is just as important as implementing the technology. It's about shifting to that more proactive, collaborative, and data-driven approach to security.
Those are great takeaways. I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about. But before we wrap up, I'd like to leave them with a few thought-provoking questions to consider. What are some of the emerging trends or challenges that you see on the horizon for XDR?
Well, as XDR continues to mature and evolve, there are a few key areas to watch. One is the rise of XDR as a service, making this technology more accessible to organizations that maybe don't have the resources to build their own XDR solutions in-house.
Makes sense. It's like outsourcing your XDR to the experts, a game changer for smaller businesses or those with limited resources.
Absolutely. Another trend to watch is the integration of XDR with emerging technologies. XDR is going to play a key role in securing new tech, like The Internet of Things, edge computing, 5G networks, all those things present unique security challenges.
So XDR is not just about protecting traditional IT environments, it's about being ready for that next wave of tech.
Exactly. And of course, there's the ongoing challenge of addressing the skills gap. The cybersecurity industry faces a shortage of skilled professionals. And as XDR becomes more widely adopted, finding and retaining qualified personnel to manage these solutions is crucial.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about building a stronger cybersecurity workforce.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as XDR gets more widely adopted, we need to address the legal and regulatory implications too, making sure it's used in compliance with data privacy laws and regulations.
Great point. It's not just about the tech, it's about the ethical and legal framework.
Exactly.
It seems like XDR is not just a tech, but a reflection of our evolving relationship with technology itself. We're constantly trying to strike that balance between innovation and security,
Wow.
between convenience and control.
You've summed it up perfectly. XDR is a testament to our quest to harness the power of tech while mitigating the risks. It's about finding that balance between progress and protection. And that's a journey that will continue to fascinate and challenge us for years to come. That's a big question. What does a shift from reactive security to proactive security mean for the future of cybersecurity? Well, imagine a world where security is not just like an afterthought, but it's baked into everything, like from the way software is developed to how we use the internet. XDR is kind of pushing us towards that. It's about shifting from like thinking about if we get attacked to thinking about when we get attacked and having the tools and the strategies, not just to respond, but to anticipate, adapt, and recover quickly.
It's like we're moving from playing defense to playing offense, you know? Instead of just reacting to punches, we're learning how to see those punches coming and counter them.
That's a great analogy. And as XDR gets more and more sophisticated with AI and machine learning and all that, it really has the potential to change how we think about security.
So it's almost like XDR is a stepping stone to a more like resilient and secure digital world.
Exactly. XDR, it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve all our cybersecurity problems overnight or anything. But it is a big step forward in how we detect, respond to, and even prevent threats. And as technology keeps evolving, XDR is going to be super important in keeping our digital world safe.
One of the things I find really interesting about XDR is it's not just about technology, it's about people too. It requires that like shift in mindset, thinking about security differently. And it puts a lot of emphasis on collaboration and communication.
You're absolutely right. Technology is just one piece of the puzzle. We need skilled professionals who can understand and manage these XDR solutions. And organizations need to embrace a more proactive and integrated approach.
So it's not just about the tool itself, it's about building that whole culture around security.
Exactly. And that culture of security needs to go beyond just organizations. Individuals need to be a part of it too. We all have a role to play in keeping our digital lives safe. And XDR can teach us some valuable lessons that we can apply to our own online habits.
So for our listeners, what are some key takeaways from this XDR deep dive? What can they do to like apply these concepts in their own lives?
I think the most important thing to remember is security isn't something that just happens to you. You have to be a part of it. Being proactive, informed, and vigilant. Those are some of the best things you can do to protect yourself online.
So it's not just about being like a passive user. You're saying people need to be more active participants in their own security.
Absolutely. You need to be aware of the risks, understand how to minimize them, and be ready to adapt as the threats change.
It's almost like we're all becoming cybersecurity detectives.
Yeah, our whole lives, right? Always gathering clues, assessing risks, and making decisions to protect ourselves.
That's a great way to put it. And that mindset is so important in today's world. Speaking of mindset, we've talked about XDR shifting from reactive to proactive security. But doesn't that mean we're like always worried about what might happen? How do we balance being proactive with, having peace of mind?
That's a good point. Proactive security shouldn't be about living in fear. It should be about giving ourselves the knowledge and tools to use the digital world safely and confidently. It's like, learning to drive defensively. You're not assuming everyone's out to get you, but you are aware of the risks and you know how to react to avoid accidents.
I like that analogy. Not paranoid, just prepared.
Exactly. And as XDR keeps getting better, I think we'll see even more tools and resources that'll help individuals manage their own security without needing to be like cybersecurity experts themselves.
So it's about making security more user-friendly so everyone can benefit.
Exactly. And that's exciting because it means security can be less of a hassle and more of a way for people to participate in the digital world with confidence and peace of mind.
We've talked a lot about what XDR can do, But what about its limitations? Are there things XDR can't do, or areas where it might fall short?
It's important to remember that, even though XDR is a big step forward for cybersecurity, it's not perfect. One challenge for XDR is dealing with zero-day attacks. Attacks that use vulnerabilities that no one knows about yet.
So it's like trying to predict something you've never seen before.
Exactly. XDR uses patterns and data from the past to identify threats, so it might not be as good at spotting brand new attacks. That's why you still need other security measures, like strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, and keeping your software updated.
It's like having a backup plan, even if you have a great security system.
That's a good way to put it. Another limitation is that XDR can be complicated to set up and manage, especially for organizations that don't have a lot of resources or technical expertise. So it's really important to choose the right XDR solution and to have a plan for how you'll implement and manage it.
So it's not just something you can plug in and forget about.
Absolutely not. And like any security solution, XDR is only as good as the people using it. You need skilled security professionals who understand how XDR works and who can make sense of the data. You also need a security-aware culture within the organization.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the people and the processes too.
Exactly. And as XDR continues to change and develop, it's important to keep those human factors in mind.
You've given us a lot to think about. I'm really interested in the idea of XDR becoming more accessible to individuals. What do you think are some promising applications of XDR for personal use in the future?
That's an exciting area. I think in the future we might see XDR-like capabilities built into our everyday devices and online services, so our security experience will be more seamless and personalized. Imagine like a smart home security system with XDR. It could detect intruders, sure, but also spot suspicious activity on your network and automatically warn you about potential threats. Or what about a personal finance app that uses XDR to monitor your accounts for fraud and proactively alert you to anything fishy?
That would be incredible. It's like security becomes this invisible shield protecting us in the background.
Exactly. And as AI and machine learning keep advancing, I think we'll see even more creative uses of XDR that will help people feel safer and more confident online.
I think that's a great point to end on. We've covered a lot today. Looking at XDR from the organization's point of view and the individual's point of view, we've talked about the technical stuff and the bigger ideas, and it's clear that XDR is more than just a new technology. It's a new way of thinking about security. It's about being proactive, integrated, and intelligent in how we protect our digital lives. It's been a really interesting deep dive, and I'm sure our listener is leaving with a much better understanding of XDR and how it might shape the future of cybersecurity. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.